You are listening to KLRN Radio, where liberty and reason still reign.
All writers are prone to becoming so attached to our characters and stories that we struggle to see why a passage may not be working. It takes another set of eyes to help us nurture our writing to full maturity. At Black Wolf Editorial Services, we strive to enable writers to develop and grow, shaping stories into masterpieces that can stand the test of time. Editing services are provided for all genres and all age categories. Services range from critiques of the short story through to the line edits of the full-length novel and copy editing for those preparing for publication. We also offer assistance on generating a writer's bio for your websites, as well as help with those book blurbs and promotional material. We won't abandon you to the masses. We want to celebrate with you in your successes. Black Wolf Editorial Services, nurturing your writing into maturity. For a full list of services and prices, visit us at blackwolfeditorial.com.
Individuals and businesses with tax problems, listen carefully. Do you feel like you're losing control over your finances? If you owe over $10,000 in back taxes or have unfiled tax returns, we can help you take back control. The IRS is the largest and most aggressive collection agency in the world, and they can seize your bank account, garnish your paycheck, close your business, and file criminal charges. Take control of your tax problems now by calling the experts at Tax Mediation Services and take advantage of the Fresh Start program and new laws that may allow us to negotiate a settlement for the lowest amount possible. Our team of tax attorneys and enrolled agents can stop collections and get you protected so you can take control of your financial future. Tax Mediation Services is accredited by the Better Business Bureau. Call now for a free case review and a price protection guaranteed quote.
Call Tax Mediation Services now at 800-610-9050. That's 800-610-9050. 800-610-9050.
KLRN Radio has advertising rates available. We have rates to fit almost any budget. Contact us at advertising@klrnradio.com.
This is Slickery Trigger for Rebel Road Tactical. With proper care and feeding, your pistol will be ready when you need it, there to save your life. Shouldn't your gear be that good? Whether you need a holster for comfortable everyday carry or a tough-as-nails holster for your next training course, Rebel Road Tactical has what you need. Check us out on the web at rebelroadtactical.com.
Tired of paying outrageous prices for Viagra? Well, we have great news for you. Now you can finally get Viagra at huge discounts. Healthy Man allows you to save up to $500 on Viagra. Why pay U.S. pharmacy prices of $15 per pill or more when you can get Viagra for less than $3 a pill? Call today and get 40 Viagra pills for only $99. This can cost as much as $600 at your local pharmacy. You can't afford not to call us. If you want Viagra at the lowest prices, never pay $15 a pill pharmacy prices again. Get Viagra for less than $3 a pill. Call 1-800-516-7602 today and save up to $500 and get 40 pills for just $99. Healthy Man is fast, easy, and affordable. Operators are waiting at 1-800-516-7602 to take your call right now. Call 1-800-516-7602. That's 1-800-516-7602. Again, 1-800-516-7602.
The following message contains a special offer for listeners of this station. Are you a man over 40? Are you constantly looking for the nearest bathroom? Do you wake up multiple times a night to use the bathroom? Right now, Perfect Prostate is sending out free bottles of their groundbreaking new formula to listeners of this station. Perfect Prostate formula was developed by medical doctor Mitchell Fleischer, and its ingredients have been clinically studied to reduce your frequent nighttime bathroom visits and promote healthy urine flow. Right now, preferred customers get their first bottle of Perfect Prostate absolutely free. There's nothing to lose. Perfect Prostate is guaranteed to reduce that constant urge to use the bathroom, especially at night, and promote healthy urine flow. Don't wait. Call now for your free bottle. Just pay shipping and processing. Dial 1-800-675-0251. That's 1-800-675-0251. Supplies are limited. One free bottle per household. Call now. Dial 1-800-675-0251. That's 1-800-675-0251.
Hey folks, I want to introduce you to a friend of mine, Dr. Richard Harden. We are on the same mission, which is waking up America. We just have different paths. So stay tuned for some information on how you can keep up with Richard and all his work.
Visit Richard's website at rahardin.com. That's the World Wide Web at rahardin.com. At his website, you can see a summary of the 6 books he has written, where purchases may be made. He also has a link to 18 videos on YouTube and several blogs about Christian beliefs. If you prefer, visit amazon.com/Kindle and type in Richard Harden to see and purchase his books.
Every day, the men and women of the United States Marine Corps stand ready to defend the American way of life. The few, the proud, the Marines.
This is Slickery Trigger for Rebel Road Tactical. With proper care and feeding, your pistol will be ready when you need it, there to save your life. Shouldn't your gear be that good? Whether you need a holster for comfortable everyday carry or a tough-as-nails holster for your next training course, Rebel Road Tactical has what you need. Check us out on the web at rebelroadtactical.com.
And so, my fellow Americans, ask not what your country can do for you. Ask what you can do for your country.
Freedom is never more than one generation away from extinction. We didn't pass it on to our children in the bloodstream. The only way they can inherit the freedom we have known is if we fight for it, protect it, defend it, and then hand it to them with the well-taught lessons of how they in their lifetime must do the same.
I'm not ready to end the fight. I'm not ready to back down. 'Cause I've been through hell and I don't have time to go round and round and round. It's too late to turn back now. You know I wouldn't if I could. 'Cause I'm proud as hell. I can't bring myself to do what it is you think I should.
All right, folks. Well, good evening. This is the Jenn and Rick Show right here on KLRNradio.com, and we're coming to you live on December the 6th, 2016. And I am, of course, one half of the crew, Rick. She's the other half, Jen. Good evening, ma'am. How are you?
I'm doing good, and since it is December 6th, I'll say Happy St. Nicholas Day, even though nobody celebrates it anymore.
Everybody on the planet is like, what is she talking about with this St. Nicholas Day stuff?
Well, my family has always celebrated, partially because my mom's family is Catholic, also because just tradition dates back with Western Europeans and particularly Germans. And not only is there German back there in my grandmother's adopted family history, but also we have settled in regions that have heavy German influence, like Central Texas. So I think that's why we've kind of carried on the tradition all these years, and we just have. So it's always kind of a fun little day in the beginning of December, right after it starts to feel like Christmas, where you get like an extra little burst of Christmasness with a service, and then usually a little present or candy or something like that from the matriarchs in the family.
Yeah, I mean, you know, I'm fairly familiar with the tradition. I just actually hadn't heard anybody talk about it for a while. I wasn't aware that there was anybody left in the country that still celebrated it.
And we have adapted it a little bit. You know, like when I was younger, we did used to actually like leave out our shoes and go through that whole rigmarole. Now we just more kind of use it as a kind of just kind of an iconic thing now. So we say, okay, you know, Happy St. Nicholas Day. It's the feast day of St. Nicholas, who was known as a giver of gifts and obviously for his worship. So we just kind of celebrated it that way by giving little tokens to each other and usually doting on the children.
Yeah, who needs an excuse to dote on children? But hey, it's a good reason as any.
They don't. It just makes them feel better about buying something for my son, basically.
Well, you know, anything that makes you feel better about buying something for your son. But yeah, I mean, so it's an interesting tradition, and like I said, it's one that I'm familiar with, but has actually kind of become really dated. So I'm glad that people are still actually celebrating that. I'd be curious to know how many people actually even still know what that is.
I don't know. I know that over the years, I know when I was younger, I would meet people here or there that kind of knew, some kids I went to school with or whatever. Sometimes church families still knew it or celebrated it, but mostly not. I mean, it was few and far between, and it was like, wait, what? And so, and as I've gotten further into adulthood, I find that fewer and fewer. I'll put out a tweet or a Facebook post or something that says Happy St. Nicholas Day, yada, yada, yada. And people will be like, oh, you're like one of those hardcore Catholics, like you celebrate all the feast days. I'm like, not really. It's kind of a special one. And in particular because he is modeled after because our Santa Claus is modeled after this saint and was the inspiration for him that, everybody loves this time of year. In addition to Jesus being the reason for the season, it's the added bonus. So, I really don't know very many people anymore. I think it goes right over their head and they just kind of chuckle nicely and go, oh yeah, ha ha, and don't know what I'm talking about. Pretty sure most of them don't.
For the record, you had me at extra day of presents.
Exactly. I mean, who doesn't like that?
I mean, come on. That was one of the reasons I was always jealous when I was a kid of my Jewish friends.
Yeah, right.
Dude,
right.
They get granted, it's like one present a night, but still, they get like 8 nights of that stuff.
Yeah, except for if that was my family, Lord help us if we were Jewish, because it would be one present from everybody a night. So we would totally defeat the purpose of it all and not follow it how it is, because we're already overboard on Christmas. We are Christmas crazy, and it makes it so much fun. And it was just a great environment to grow up in. So anyways, I'm enjoying the season already.
Very, very nice. It is actually just starting to turn cold here, so it's actually starting to feel a little bit more like Christmas. We're actually supposed to get down to like 15 degrees overnight, which for us is cold.
Yeah. We actually had our high was like 52 today. So, and the high's going to be like 40 on Thursday. So it's time to turn the fire on and kind of enjoy it for a little bit and stay inside.
Yes, definitely stay inside. Because it's too cold to go outside. I don't know. The funny thing is, as I get older, I tend to notice that I don't like being cold at all. It never used to bother me. I actually, up until about 2 years ago, I never actually used to even really get cold. I mean, it had to be really, really cold outside for me to get cold. And it seems like as I get older, I now feel bad for all of the people that were in their 40s and 50s that I used to make fun of in my 20s. They were like, man, it's cold, turn the heater up, because now I understand exactly how they felt. And now my children or grandchildren are looking at me going, hey, old man, shut up.
Well, I'm petite, so I'm pretty much always cold. It's hard to keep me warm, so especially when it's really cold. But I do like it. I like getting bundled up. I like wearing scarves. I like wearing hats. I lived in the Northeast for a while, and I lived in Europe where it got, nice and chilly. So I can appreciate it. I like having a season a little bit. Most of Texas, most of Central Texas is 8 months of summer. So I like having a little bit of a change of season, but I don't want to be out in it too long.
No, exactly. It's just funny to think about, because I remember when I was a kid, Christmas didn't seem like Christmas unless it was cold. And then in Oklahoma, yep. Now granted, I didn't live here for from the time I was 12 until the time I was 17. We were kind of traveling back and forth because my mom married a drill instructor in the Air Force, and we started getting flown all over the country. I went to like 5 schools in 4 years. It was like the weirdest time ever for me, because up until then I'd been in a single place. But I think I can count the number of times that I've seen snow anywhere near Christmas like twice in the 20.
Really?
Yeah, twice.
Because I always go to Oklahoma for Christmas. Actually, like a small town outside of Lawton. And that's where my grandmother's from, and we always spend Christmas there. And just in the last 4 years, we've had snow twice on Christmas, or like right around Christmas.
Yeah.
Last year, we got snowed in. And then a couple years before that, it was like a full on blizzard. And like I-40 was closed and there was no, you couldn't pass over the Red River from Texas to Oklahoma. So we had family members stuck on the south side of the river, and then some of us made it north just in time, and then it was a whole big mess. So we didn't end up really having Christmas until like late Christmas night, because most people didn't even get there, even though they started traveling on the 23rd or 24th and couldn't even get to us until then. But I mean, it happens. And always, like, the ice thing is always much more of a worry in Oklahoma and Texas than snow or anything falling. It's always the freezing that's the problem.
Well, yeah. So, no, what I meant was I think I can remember maybe twice as a kid that I saw snow anywhere near Christmas. Now, that's changed since I've been an adult, because I actually was out in the middle of that blizzard that you were just talking about.
Climate change.
Well, yeah, but see, there was a reason I was going there, because, there's somebody else that's now decided that climate change might actually be a thing. Does anybody remember candidate Donald Trump, who said climate change was a hoax and it was all of the scheme by the Chinese? Because apparently that's all been kind of slowly changing. Because nominee Trump said that, climate change might be real. But, we'd have to do some more checking into it. Now, just yesterday, Ivanka Trump meets with Al Gore in regards to climate topics. I wonder what that was about.
Yeah. And see, here's where, and especially with her, she is pretty, more so than Trump even said when we knew he was still like a New York Democrat. She is really a liberal. I mean, listened to what her speech was at the convention, what she talked about for maternity leave and women's health care and all of these things. I mean, she is a dyed-in-the-wool, New York liberal. And so it didn't surprise me at all that she was going to be talking with Al Gore and hopefully influencing her father on the importance of renewable energy and climate change, and possibly who knows what, like anti-pipeline, pro-solar, who knows what all. But I did find the image of him. I can't remember who put it out there, but it's an image of him walking into Trump Tower and everything around him is a blur except for Gore. And he's just walking with this briefcase. And I thought it was kind of funny because I thought he must kind of felt like he was walking into the Twilight Zone, going to speak to a Trump family member about climate change when he has called it a hoax for months and months and months.
Yeah, and the interesting thing is I actually got guffed because I was kind of pointing out, this guy just a couple months ago was like, oh, climate change is a hoax. Now all of a sudden he has a family member meeting with Al Gore, the supposed father of the whole climate change idea. And everybody kind of came unhinged and they're like, well, just because he's conservative doesn't mean he can't think that climate change is real. I'm like, well, first of all, if you say the word climate change and you mean it, you're not really a conservative. I'm just saying.
Right. Well, and I think, this is something that the left has changed this term so often. The government has changed it so often to fit whatever it was they needed to continue to suck taxpayers dry and fund these programs and funnel money into, resources that may or may not be necessary, and we think mostly not, that is kind of crippling parts of our economy and crippling areas of our country by enforcing harsh regulations and forcing, solar power. There's been a lot of land that has had to be pretty forcefully turned over to the federal government to be able to put these and they pay, but how fair are they paying in order to say that you have to put this gigantic, windmill on your land? And so they're thoroughly invested in it. So it's in their best interest to keep it going. So when it was pretty well obvious that we had some really, really harsh winters after they were pushing global warming down our throats so hard, then they called it climate change, and they changed it to the discussion of climate change. So they keep changing the narrative so that they can, that's what's going to happen, though. It's going to be a roller coaster. There's going to be some really harsh, weather patterns. It's not just about warming. The Earth is warming, but it's not just about that. There's going to be these super hurricanes, and there's going to be these, really harsh winters in some places, and there's going to be, torrential rain in areas that have never seen it before, and tornadoes like we've never seen, and yada, 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 even though there's no real evidence to support any of that.
And the ice caps were supposed to be gone by 2015.
Right. Have you ever filled a cup with ice and then filled it with water and let the ice melt?
Uh-huh.
What happens?
Well,
it doesn't overflow and spill everywhere?
No, because ice expands when it freezes.
Isn't that interesting? Because that's what they told us when I was in elementary and middle school. They drilled into our heads that if the ice caps melted, it was going to envelop all of the land, and areas of the United States and all over the world would be lost underwater forever. Because of the ice caps specifically, not because of other changes, because of the ice caps melting specifically. And it was funny that I had one teacher that pointed out that that's not really how this works. And then he was pretty promptly told to shut his mouth. And so we had a couple students that did it as an experiment for the science fair with various different containers filled with different kinds of ice to see if it would actually overflow or, cover another mass next to it. And it never did.
Gee,
so
funny how that works.
Yeah,
So-
they didn't get any awards, though.
So I have a question. Are you familiar with the Road Beer on Twitter? I'm assuming you
Oh,
probably
of
are.
course. One of my faves.
Did you happen to see his tweet storm yesterday about global warming?
Okay, I got to read it, and I was going to go back and retweet it, or I wanted to, storify it so we could read it on air because it's so good. But I completely forgot about it until you just said that this minute.
Really? Actually, I have it. You want me to send it to you? So you
Yes,
want to read
yes, do it.
Okay, hang on. Let me take that back. There's been like 1 million messages since I saw it last in a DM that we were in, so I'm going to see if I can find it here.
Okay, see if you can find it, and I'll jabber for a second about this whole thing with, it kind of goes in line with it about, the Army Corps of Engineers. At first it was said that the Army Corps of Engineers has decided against the pipeline now, and so the protesters have won. They're not going to do it here. They've decided to deny it. And that was not true. NBC actually put out the story today that it's not actually the Army Corps of Engineers who have studied this for years, who have done field studies. They have done ground tests, and they have also worked with independent researchers, scientists, and engineers and compared notes and shared findings. And they've all come to the basic same conclusion that this is the best place for the pipeline and it should be approved to go there. It was the civilian leadership under political pressure that ultimately decided to deny it. There is only a mile left of this pipeline. There's already a natural gas line that runs right in the same area, as are there old pipelines that run all around the pipeline in that area and elsewhere. So this entire thing is political, and they're screaming about, harmful environmental effects, which are just there's not evidence for, and it's just a bunch of bogus claims. So I think it's worth making sure people understand that the Army Corps of Engineers did several initial studies, approved it, then they did a follow-up and reapproved it, and then they did their final recommendation, which was what was brought and is what was implemented. And these protesters have halted it. The weather conditions are worsening. And the civilian leadership is who decided that they would deny it for now. But it's still a for now thing. It's not a total win for the protesters because rerouting this and they'll probably get taken to court because the engineers did approve it all, yada, 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 I doubt it will be realigned. So basically the Army civilian leadership just gave a big screw you and to the Army Corps of Engineers and all their hard work over the last several years.
Well, I mean, honestly, I'm not surprised because
woohoo,
we still have Obama in office. I mean, he's going to do everything he can to fight that thing tooth and nail until the last day he's out. Because
which is still, to me, I'm like, the technology for pipeline transport is so high and so much cheaper and faster and safer than pretty much any other form of transportation. And none of these people are recommending anything else. They just think, oh, pipes and they break. And I mean, these companies have a high incentive not to have issues. And then there's always risk, and there's going to be accidents at times. But they also are now required to do their own cleanups. So it's their burden. It's their financial responsibility on the line as well, not just their product. And they're like, woohoo, we're doing this and they are financially responsible in every way. So I haven't heard a whole lot of recommendations other than we just don't want the crude oil. And I think that goes into not wanting to transfer this, not wanting to make it cheaper and more efficiently accessible in the United States, because they are so invested in the green energy and forcing companies, regulations, states, the people to have to comply with things that are not necessarily more effective or safer for the environment, but they've decided is the way to go. And they've invested way too much money in it. And so that's why they're making this a thing.
Well, no, it's interesting that you bring up the whole green job thing, because there's another topic that I want to touch on in a minute. But as far as the pipeline thing goes, if you ever bother to look it up, you can just Google oil pipelines in America. You're going to see some very astounding things, some things that I didn't even realize how many pipelines there already were. I mean, everybody's acting like this is the only one and that it's going to destroy the environment. But the simple fact of the matter is there are pipelines crisscrossing this nation right now. And there are very few reported incidents with these pipelines because, just like Jen was talking about, the technology is in place to make sure that I guess the biggest thing with the people probably think about with pipelines is they see all these comedy skits on sitcoms where the dude's sitting there and all of a sudden his pipes burst. I mean, come on, they've been doing that gag since I Love Lucy days. And I think that's part of the problem, because everybody thinks of pipes and they think of how easily they break in TV shows and how easily they freeze under your house and all these different things that can go wrong with your plumbing. And they're equating those pipes to those type of situations when nothing could be further from the truth, because that's not even the same. They're not even in the same category. And the simple fact of the matter is, a lot of these people, because they're making this big thing about how they don't want the pipe to go through Indian territory, blah, blah, blah. If you actually look, where they're talking about putting the pipeline isn't even on their territory.
No, it's not. Now, there is a claim that it is it will run through some of the tribal burial lands that are not actually official part of their territory as they've been designated by the federal government. But that's everywhere. I mean, you could dig up Indian graveyards literally all over this nation. Everywhere is a tribal burial ground because very few had organized burial, places. They were moving, and especially in something like this, I mean, where these people aren't even originally from this area, they were moved there. I mean, I'm not trying to say that we should not be sensitive to anything like that at all, but a lot of people did research this and found that the amount of burial sites there might be in that area were very small and not even remotely economical or logical to completely reroute this line because of it. And it hasn't been determined sacred by even some of the historical Indian societies. So until they can get that, basically registered as a sacred site, then it's kind of fair game, and it's not their property. It's just not their land.
No, exactly. And that's kind of the thing with it, though. I mean, because, it's like you said, at this point, there could be pretty much one of a half dozen tribes that could say anywhere you're trying to put up a building, hey, my ancestors were buried there. The Indian tribes, when other settlers first came here, they were nomadic. They used to roam. They never stayed. A lot of them never stayed in one place. They didn't build fixed structures. They were using things that were easy to carry and easy to move because they went with they followed the migration patterns of the animals that they were hunting on a regular basis. They were nomads. So, if we're going to start doing that, there could be literally lawsuits all over the country right now for buildings that were put up, because I bet you if we looked, we could probably find a burial ground somewhere within a stone's throw of every building that's been put up in this country.
Right. Well, and I think it's also important to note that so much of the backlash about this and so much of the protesting about this is not actually coming from the natives. There is a sector of them that is. Also, it is well known that part of this Sioux tribe and their leadership council that decided to start putting up a fight is that they're known agitators, and they create issues like this all over, whether it is their tribe or not. And they demand money, and there's all sorts of other motives and reasoning that someone who is not familiar with basically the politics of Native Americans and the tribes in regards to the federal government and anything like this, if they don't follow those kinds of things or they're not immersed in them, they might not really understand. But they are well known in the Native American community for basically being troublemakers. And the protesters are imported from all over. They've come of their own free will. I'm not saying they haven't, but they are not solely Native American or even mostly Native American. They are mostly people from other areas that protest anything they can protest, pretty much. And they take up arms with people like these tribes there. And a lot of the tribes didn't vote for it. And for years they had meetings and they had public hearings and they had all sorts of ways for these people to speak out, for them to attend and to have some say in where the pipeline might go, their concerns about it, get questions answered. And the attendance was low. And there is lots of evidence to support all of those things. They were on public record, and people didn't show up for it. So it's a little too late. This is the process. This is what happens. This is private property. And, also the company has been a lot more gracious than I would be in allowing them designated areas in which they can protest, which they refuse to stay in and continue to go to the other areas, which is why you saw the water cannons and things like you did earlier in the year. They've been more than cooperative, and the protesters have pushed it time and again. And now here, the Army civil leadership just gives them the green light to continue to win wars based on toddler temper tantrums.
Fun fact, and then we need to take a really quick break. And then I actually sent you the link to that tweet stream we were looking for earlier. Guess how many miles of pipeline there are in America? Just
how many?
Take a guess.
I have no idea. I think I looked at this when I was researching all this stuff about this pipeline, but I forget. What is it?
2.5 million miles of pipeline throughout.
Throughout
this
country. I
country.
remember it was in the millions. I just couldn't pinpoint it.
2.5 million miles worth of pipeline. We're talking about pipelines for the crude oil. We're talking about pipelines for refined oil. We're talking about pipelines for compressed natural gas. All in all, 2.5 million miles of pipeline. If you look there, at this point, the only place that there's really not any pipelines is right around where Area 52 probably is. If you really look, you could actually look at it on the map. There's nothing for most of Arizona and New Mexico, but there's pipelines almost everywhere else in the country. And I'm not talking a little bit. I'm talking there's areas where it's dense network of pipelines, and yet this one is going to be so unsafe that we should never allow it to happen. I don't understand.
With only 1 mile left to be laid. This has already been put down mostly, and right next to a natural gas line that already exists. It's just insane.
Yeah, it doesn't make any sense to me at all. All right, folks, when we come back, we're going to continue the talk about the pipeline and global warming, and then we have some interesting developments in the Trump camp that we're going to probably round out the show with. This is Jenn and Rick. We will be right back here in just a couple minutes. Don't go away.
And so, my fellow Americans, ask not what your country can do for you. Ask what you can do for your country.
Freedom is never more than one generation away from extinction. We didn't pass it on to our children.
You are listening to KLRN Radio, where liberty and reason still reign.
All writers are prone to becoming so attached to our characters and stories that we struggle to see why a passage may not be working. It takes another set of eyes to help us nurture our writing to full maturity. At Black Wolf Editorial Services, we strive to enable writers to develop and grow, shaping stories into masterpieces that can stand the test of time. Editing services are provided for all genres and all age categories. Services range from critiques of the short story through to the line edits of the full-length novel and copy editing for those preparing for publication. We also offer assistance on generating a writer's bio for your website, as well as help with those book blurbs and promotional material. We won't abandon you to the masses. We want to celebrate with you in your successes. Black Wolf Editorial Services, nurturing your writing into maturity. For a full list of services and prices, visit us at blackwolfeditorial.com.
Individuals and businesses with tax problems, listen carefully. Do you feel like you're losing control over your finances? If you owe over $10,000 in back taxes or have unfiled tax returns, we can help you take back control. The IRS is the largest and most aggressive collection agency in the world, and they can seize your bank account, garnish your paycheck, close your business, and file criminal charges. Take control of your tax problems now by calling the experts at Tax Mediation Services and take advantage of the Fresh Start program and new laws that may allow us to negotiate a settlement for the lowest amount possible. Our team of tax attorneys and enrolled agents can stop collections and get you protected so you can take control of your financial future. Tax Mediation Services is accredited by the Better Business Bureau. Call now for a free case review and a price protection guaranteed quote.
Call Tax Mediation Services now at 800-610-9050. That's 800-610-9050. 800-610-9050.
KLRN Radio has advertising rates available. We have rates to fit almost any budget. Contact us at advertising@klrnradio.com.
This is Slickery Trigger for Rebel Road Tactical. With proper care and feeding, your pistol will be ready when you need it, there to save your life. Shouldn't your gear be that good? Whether you need a holster for comfortable everyday carry or a tough-as-nails holster for your next training course, Rebel Road Tactical has what you need. Check us out on the web at rebelroadtactical.com.
Tired of paying outrageous prices for Viagra? Well, we have great news for you. Now you can finally get Viagra at huge discounts. Healthy Man allows you to save up to $500 on Viagra. Why pay U.S. pharmacy prices of $15 per pill or more when you can get Viagra for less than $3 a pill? Call today and get 40 Viagra pills for only $99. This can cost as much as $600 at your local pharmacy. You can't afford not to call us. If you want Viagra at the lowest prices, never pay $15 a pill pharmacy prices again. Get Viagra for less than $3 a pill. Call 1-800-516-7602 today and save up to $500 and get 40 pills for just $99. Healthy Man is fast, easy, and affordable. Operators are waiting at 1-800-516-7602 to take your call right now. Call 1-800-516-7602. That's 1-800-516-7602. Again, 1-800-516-7602.
The following message contains a special offer for listeners of this station. Are you a man over 40? Are you constantly looking for the nearest bathroom? Do you wake up multiple times a night to use the bathroom? Right now, Perfect Prostate is sending out free bottles of their groundbreaking new formula to listeners of this station. Perfect Prostate Formula was developed by medical doctor Mitchell Fleischer, and its ingredients have been clinically studied to reduce your frequent nighttime bathroom visits and promote healthy urine flow. Right now, preferred customers get their first bottle of Perfect Prostate absolutely free. There's nothing to lose. Perfect Prostate is guaranteed to reduce that constant urge to use the bathroom, especially at night, and promote healthy urine flow. Don't wait. Call now for your free bottle. Just pay shipping and processing. Dial 1-800-675-0251. That's 1-800-675-0251. Supplies are limited. One free bottle per household. Call now. Dial 1-800-675-0251. That's 1-800-675-0251.
Hey, folks.
Cause I'm proud as hell, I can't bring myself to do what it is you think I should.
All right, folks, welcome back. Well, that break was a little bit longer than we intended. Sorry, the host monkey got a little carried away with the conversation. Now, before we went to break, I promised Jen that I was going to send her a link to a group of tweets that she wanted to talk about on tonight's show, and I feel like I've been doing most of the talking, so I think I'm going to let you jump off with that now that we're back from break.
Okay. So our friend went on this little rant, and I'll just go ahead and read it as is, and then we can kind of discuss a little bit. But so he says, okay, here's the deal. Earlier in my life, I was in college to be a planetary scientist, so I have a little background. The geologic and astronomical record do not back up the existence of man-made climate change. USGS and NASA NOAA data contradict each other on this. You can find it on their respective websites. IPCC climate model has been wrong, and none of the models predicted the pause. The reason I bring up the EE main stage is during the last IGP, the climate was very similar to what we enjoy now, until the EE main when it got warmer. So warm that hardwood trees grew north of the Arctic Circle. This was just 150,000 years ago. Also, 3 of the planets in the system are experiencing similar warming in parallel with our own. Now, none of this means we shouldn't be good stewards, but climatology as a science is young, and there are far more factors in play than coal in China or my SUV. Simply moving through a dense stellar cloud turns our system into a convection oven, and we can't see those up close if there is no internal light source in them. So you'll forgive me if I'm skeptical about a science that currently has all the gravitas of phrenology. So, you know, he also goes on to say about how, you know, someone says like 97% of scientists are wrong. And he said, yeah, that's 97% figure is based off of a 4-question online poll that only 2% of respondents were actually climatologists. So, you know, that's the thing. And we've talked about before about also how the government pays many of these scientists. They actually work for the government to participate in some of these studies and to come up with some of these answers. And the government's the one pushing climate change. So why wouldn't these scientists fall in line with their employer? I mean, that's what they're paid to do. So, and we've seen people get blackballed for doing otherwise. So there are a lot of things to consider here, and is for me as a discerning and rational, analytical person, I just go, let's pump the brakes a little bit. I'm not quite ready to, you know, stake my soul, my livelihood, my planet on man-made climate change as a settled science. That seems pretty fair to me, but apparently that makes me a denier. It makes me crazy, and it should make me unemployable, basically.
Well, you know, you are crazy. I mean, you've got to be. Hang out with me. But no, I mean, and here's the thing, and this is one of the things that I've tried to have the conversation with Bryce, the millennial that I do find a common ground with, who happens to be a liberal and is a staunch proponent of climate change. And I keep trying to bring this up to him because every time we have this argument, he talks about, well, NASA scientists say that climate change is real. And I'm like, Bryce, who pays for NASA's funding? Well, the government does. Isn't the government the one pushing climate change, Bryce? Well, even the U.S. Navy says climate change is real, Bryce. Same question. I mean, you're citing people that are not wanting to bite the hand that feeds them. I mean, that's the primary axiom in life and business. You do not bite the hand that feeds you, because otherwise you might start starving. So you're talking about the government that is staunchly a proponent of climate change because they figured out a way to make money off of climate change, telling all of their agencies that they control the purse strings of, we want studies about climate change and we want to be able to show the American people that it's real. So when you approach them in that manner, what do you expect them to do?
Well, even more than that, a lot of times, even some of these independent research companies or studies, if you will actually dive into who's behind them, they may not actually be what you would consider like on the federal payroll, like working for NASA, but they receive federal grants and they are receiving funding through their universities or wherever else from the federal government that will dry up if they don't produce certain results, basically. And I don't think everything is that completely controlled and manipulated, but I do think that there's a lot of incentive. And I think that climate science is so up for, you know, interpretation right now that it's mostly theory and very little conclusions really at this point that are in any way verifiable. So you're talking about people that are thought to look at, kind of paid to look at it through a certain lens and come to certain conclusions. But calling it settled is irresponsible, in my opinion. And most scientists that are not on a payroll like that agree.
Well, except for the ones that take that pesky 4-question survey, and 99% of the 97% of scientists that are.
But that 4-question survey is like so ridiculous. Yeah, because it's kind of like when you poll someone about being Republican or Democrat by saying, like, do you care about children? Yes. Okay, well, then you're a Democrat. And they say, we blah, blah, blah. 99% of people care, are Democrats because they want us to provide welfare for children. No, that's not what you asked, though. You asked if people care about children, and most people do. So, that's the other thing, that whenever there's a survey or some kind of polling like this involved, especially with scientists, like polling is almost as unscientific as you can possibly get.
Well, I mean, when they start talking about these online scientific polls for climate change, it reminds me of the Breitbart polls and the Drudge polls. Right.
I mean, it's just, it's seriously, it's almost, I don't know. It's really unfathomable to me to base your 97% of scientists agree figure that gets thrown around constantly in the media for years on this little 4-piece questionnaire. That just doesn't even, that's remotely out of the realm of academia. It's crazy.
So, changing topics for the last few minutes of the show, I have a question, because I don't think you and I have had a chance to talk about this much, and I've been kind of asking everybody because it's interesting to get the different perspectives. The carrier deal that Donald Trump was recently a part of, what are your overall feelings on that? Did you think it was a good thing? Did you think it was a bad thing? Was it crony capitalism?
So, I didn't have any real strong feelings on it at first. I was kind of like, okay, I mean, cut some taxes, make some deals, keep some jobs. All right. It's not my ideal thing, but I mean, overall, whatever. As a few more things have come out, though, I'm kind of like, this is, and I'm never really on the side of like, I think we can't just be okay with crony capitalism when it's like our side, and not be okay with it when it's the opponent. And I'm not sure this is exactly what that. I don't think that this is exactly that. But I do think that it's not super innocent, but I don't think it's completely like evil either. I don't know. I kind of fall down in the middle. It's not my area of real, I don't have a whole well of knowledge on it. So I'd have to really kind of read a lot more, and I depend on the expert opinions of others. And I have people that I really highly respect that are really adept in the field that are on opposite sides, and they're equally as conservative. So it's kind of been hard for me to come to my own conclusion about.
Well, here's my thing with it. First of all, just to put this in a little bit of perspective, President-elect Donald Trump, who actually hasn't even been able to take office yet, has not been sworn in, has actually managed to start working towards one of his campaign promises, which was keeping jobs in America. Now, take that on face value, because at this point we're talking about 800 jobs that otherwise would have went to Mexico. We're talking about 800 to 1,000 families that have been impacted by the fact that those jobs are staying here. Now, we're also talking about a pretty big shot in the arm to the ego of the American people at this point, because they're seeing a president who's willing to go to bat for them and actually make sure that we're keeping services and products that are actually worth a damn, not flushing $2.2 billion into green energy programs, and it's basically a black hole and it never comes back, never does us any good. Now, the thing that and honestly, it's taken me actually for about as long as this story has been going on, I've been doing research and trying to wrap my head around it, because I honestly, there are other things that I really was not aware of until I really started looking at this, because I didn't realize, because we hear everybody talk about level playing field and it's not fair because wages are cheaper in Mexico and they're cheaper in China, but I didn't realize how much cheaper. The reason Carrier was eyeing Mexico to move a lot of their jobs to was because the average Indiana worker that works for Carrier in Indiana makes $30 an hour plus benefits. So if you take a standard benefit package and tag it right on top of that $30 an hour, you're probably looking at somewhere between $60 to $65 to maybe $70 an hour, depending on how long they've been there and what type of benefits they're eligible for, and so on and so forth. Now, the interesting thing, and I didn't know this till I started looking into it, in Mexico, they were going to be paying the same people not $11 an hour, $11 a day. So you're talking an average, counting benefits, of probably somewhere around $30 to $40 a day, as opposed to $70 to $80 an hour. And people wonder how it is that we're losing our jobs to other places. Now, what concerns me about some of the other language that's been coming out, because he started with the carrot approach, and I don't think he's an idiot. I think he understands that he's not going to be able to keep offering $7, $8, $10 million tax breaks to people to be able to keep their jobs here. But the thing to keep in mind is, let's not forget that this administration that is currently in place, again, has flushed $2.2 billion down the black hole of green job stimulus, when honestly, if the federal government keeps doing the things that under Donald Trump's direction they're already starting to do, where you're actually putting the money back into jobs that are going to be able to be kept, tax revenue will increase. Ultimately, I think it's going to wind up saving us money if we start using the stimulus properly, instead of throwing it good money after bad into things that we don't necessarily know are going to work. The simple fact of the matter is, these jobs will keep Indiana flush as far as in that particular area. We're talking about half the plant that gets to stay. We're talking about tax money that stays in the economy. We're talking about people that are still going to be able to Christmas shop this year. So I think the benefits of this are completely immeasurable at this point. And I don't know if there's some secret deal because it's part of Trump's stock portfolio, like I keep hearing about, that apparently he has shares in Carrier. All I know is, when I was making $200,000, $300,000 a year, which, believe it or not, wasn't that long ago, I had stock portfolios all over the place, and I didn't even know what was in half of them. I paid a guy to run those things, and I said, hey, make me money. So I'm pretty sure at this point, Donald Trump probably has investments in half the country and probably doesn't know that he does, just to be completely honest.
That may very well be true. And I mean, I think there's also something to be said for what actually ends up happening, waiting and seeing, and which is kind of the name of the game with this, but waiting and seeing, because, like we said, he is still the elect. He is not president yet. He has not been sworn in yet. And so what standards may be applied, I think, kind of vary a little bit depending on, as opposed to when he actually takes office. And also what will actually go down. So, I mean, we're still kind of in uncharted waters here, and there will be a lot for Congress to take up, and there will be a lot for his cabinet to, once they get approved on what they approve of him doing. So we just kind of have no idea how this is all going to go, I feel like.
No, I mean, and that's the thing. I mean, look. I have been all over the map with this because in my heart I want to give the man a chance. I gave Obama a chance in 2008 because he was going to be president. I did everything I could to get behind him. Now, there are times when he, of course, is let loose with his phone, and I'm watching the things that he's tweeting, and I'm like, really? I'm trying to give you a chance, and you're acting like a 5-year-old with a cell phone. But at the same time, at this point, he's going to be president. What I don't understand, and this is probably going to annoy some people, but what I don't understand is the people at this point that are now just bashing on him for the sake of bashing on him for everything that he says and does. I mean, I've seen people that he could come out and say the sky is purple, and there would be people that would, well, oh my God, the sky really is this beautiful color of purple. Then you have the other side of the spectrum, is like, he even lies about what color the sky is. He's the devil. I don't understand how we got to the point where an elected official can cause such vitriol and even jubilance. I mean, because it's now happened with Trump and with Obama. But
right. I was going to say, I think this is kind of a continuation of what we already saw with Obama, who didn't help matters himself. And, you know, again, here we've got Trump, who is not going to help matters himself. So we're going to have consecutive presidencies of kind of self-involved, arrogant, and in kind of spoiled children at the helm with very thin skin that are not going to help, you know, nurture any sort of kind of come togetherness. I'm losing my train of thought here, but so I think that Trump is obviously going to be more outlandish and more outspoken and tweet more and use more abrasive, probably, you know, phraseology is a word I like to use from the Music Man, but it's going to be kind of more of the same in a lot of ways.
So one other thing that I kind of want to get your take on, because I forgot we got a late start, so we got about 5 minutes. The whole call with Taiwan. Why is everybody making such a big deal about that? Because I really don't get it.
So I think the main thing to be concerned about there, and I've done I've kind of read some things that some people that on the subject of foreign diplomacy and kind of the, you know, treacherous navigating the treacherous waters of foreign affairs, you know, things that I've read from them on this, is that it's kind of about dang time. So the main problem was it basically an accident, and was it a kind of a mess up, and that he stumbled into doing this, or was it a calculated move? And I think it would be more respected, and people would take it under, but kind of just look at it differently if it was a calculated move that had been talked about with advisors and, you know, with people that kind of know these kinds of things, as opposed to he just kind of fumbled and bumbled his way into it. I don't know which it is, but I know that quite a few people on the right that I really respect in regards to foreign relations have said we've needed to step up to China and to recognize Taiwan for a very long time. Maybe not in this way. It needed to be handled more timidly. But overall, speaking with the president and recognizing that person as the president of Taiwan is not a bad thing in the long run, and China needs to sit down and behave.
Well, let's face it, the one thing Trump is not, at least not any longer, is timid. I was just curious to get your take on it because, I mean, I've seen both sides of the argument where they're like, where he's, you know, he tried to play it off like he's Inspector Clouseauing his way into the phone call. I honestly don't buy that. I think this was a shot across China's bow because, let's face it, China's been doing some things that we're not happy about. At least in the rest of the world, we're not, as far as the rest of the country. I mean, they're busily building, manufacturing islands in the South China Sea that they're turning into bases. I have a problem with that. I don't know why the Obama administration hasn't had a problem with that, because I definitely have a problem with that. And I think we need and I don't know.
Yeah, I think so. And I think this was also kind of a good excuse where you could kind of play it off as being a little bit like naive, in that he was answering, or he was rather returning a call from the Taiwanese president, to congratulate him as the new head of state of the most powerful country in the world. So I think you can kind of play it off that way instead of it being like, oh, I decided to do this. I reached out and I did that. And now I'm going to have a press conference on it, and in your face, China. It could be played off a little bit more innocently. Like, all I did was return a phone call, and I realized that that's like anti-decorum, but maybe we should have a talk about this now, because we are going to recognize Taiwan. You know what I mean? Like, it was just, maybe it was kind of a stroke of genius to do it in that way. I don't know, but I certainly know that he has said before that he has relations with China, and he is not going to basically be bullied by them. So maybe this is step one.
Actually, what he said was he has relations with China.
China, which I always confused with the wrestler.
So You know, it's funny because I actually tried to make a joke about that in the middle of that climate change storm that I bought. Dude, my mentions were a mess yesterday thanks to that mess. But anyway, so I tried to make a joke about that, and I even found a Trump gift that I thought was pretty funny to go along with it, and I spelled it out J-Y-N-A because it always sounds like he says Gina. And the global warming person was like, what does that mean? I'm like, dude, watch Saturday Night Live. Come on. Anyway, believe it or not, we are officially out of time. Why don't you remind folks where they can hang out with you when you are not on the radio hanging out with me?
Yeah, you can follow me on Twitter at jhomestead and JR Homestead on Facebook, and check out a website, a project I work with some people on where we do politics, but also fun stuff at misfitpolitics.weebly.com.
So are you saying politics is not fun stuff? No, I'm just playing.
Oh, it is for me, but not for everybody.
No,
we do have our latest review of what we'll be looking for in the college bowl season for any of our college football fans.
All right, folks, and up next, there will be an episode of America Off the Rails. Sadly, while Jen and I have been doing the show, I have noticed my voice keeps trying to cut out more and more, and I don't have enough to do a whole nother hour. So we're going to actually pick out one of the most listened to shows over the last couple of weeks and run it again. I'd like to thank everybody for tuning in to us live right here on KLRNradio.com. Don't forget, starting this Thursday, you can catch us also on the Lanterns Radio Network, because actually we were supposed to be there today and I've been too busy with training with a new job and kind of forgot to send them the file. So we're going to start Thursday. Have a great night, folks. We'll be back, and we will be back right here on Thursday, and I'll be back with you live tomorrow night. And actually, I think tomorrow night we have a new show launching, but I'm still waiting to get confirmation of that. I think we have a new show with Dan and Miss Susan starting, I think, officially tomorrow. I think they did declare that December 7th was going to be the first day. So we'll have the Conservative Curmudgeon Show at 7 Eastern, the Justice POV Show at, 8 Eastern for Conservative Curmudgeon. Then we have 9 Eastern for Justice POV, 10 Eastern for the new show with Mr. Dan Wright and Miss Susan Swift. And then, of course, we'll have America Off the Rails, where, God willing, I'll actually be live again tomorrow night, but no promises because the weather keeps changing around here and my voice is killing me. But we'll be back later, folks. You have a great night. Take care. God bless.
And so, my fellow Americans, ask not what your country can do for you. Ask what you can do for your country.
Freedom is never more than one generation away from extinction. We didn't pass it on to our children in the bloodstream. The only way they can inherit the freedom we have known.